Are you recording?
Welcome to New Tracks Modeling. New Tracks provides unique mentoring opportunities to enhance your modeling skills by connecting with talented modelers and manufacturers from around the globe who generously share their knowledge and artistic expertise. Build your confidence, refine modeling techniques, and share your projects with a supportive community of fellow modelers, all while enjoying the world's most rewarding hobby. Join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern on Zoom and YouTube for our free live program. Missed a program? No problem. Individual show segments are uploaded to YouTube for convenient on-demand viewing. Be sure to connect with the New Tracks community by joining the New Tracks Facebook page where you can interact with other modelers and see what they are modeling. Visit our website at www.newtracksmodeling.com, where you'll find information about upcoming events and the latest issue of our magazine, New Tracks Modeler. New Tracks Modeler features articles from builds on the show, exciting new products, and other great articles. And now, here is the host of New Tracks Modeling, Tom Farrell.
Good evening, and welcome to New Tracks Modeling, coming to you live on Zoom and YouTube as we do every Wednesday night from 7 p.m. Eastern to 9 p.m. We're pleased you're joining us. Before we begin tonight's program, I want to take a moment to reflect on the incredible response we received to the launch of our premiere issue of New Tracks Modeler, our new monthly digital magazine. The feedback was extraordinary and 100% positive. We're grateful for your encouragement and support. Our second issue is in the works and promises to be even better. It's especially exciting that most of the content is written by first-time authors, new to New Tracks. Their new ideas and creativity have brought a fresh energy to our magazine, and we're happy to share their work with you. This speaks to the core truth about what keeps a publication or any platform alive and thriving: new material, fresh ideas, and a diversity of contributors. This steady flow of new talent fuels our magazine, this live show, our website, our Facebook page. Additionally, I'm proud to share that our subscriber base for the digital magazine is growing fast, approaching 9,000 readers, and we're just getting started. So whether you are a seasoned modeler, a beginner, or enjoying the hobby and creativity behind the rails, you're welcome here. This broadcast and our 5 platforms are part of a larger vision that Jim Kello, New Tracks mentor and master model railroader, started. And I want to remind everybody that all New Tracks platforms are free to participants and powered entirely by a team of volunteers dedicated to growing and enriching the model railroading community. Before we climb aboard into tonight's lineup, I want to thank Brennan's Model Railroading, the sponsor of this evening's program.
Tonight's New Tracks Modeling Meetup is sponsored by Brennan's Model Railroading. For over 25 years, Brennan's Model Railroading has been offering unique products focused on the O-scale market. Their flagship product, Brennan's Better Ballast, was an instant hit and continues to be the industry leader. The prototypical size and natural color blend of real crushed granite make it the choice for discerning modelers. Since then, Brennan's has developed a complementary line of natural ground cover materials. Brennan's also has craftsman kits that anyone can build. The complete photographically illustrated instructions assume you've never done this before, and explain in step-by-step detail how to create an outstanding model. The Frank Ellison Tribute series of kits are amazing additions to any layout. These kits take Frank Ellison's scratch-built iconic structures to a new level using modern methods and materials with Dennis Brennan's additional details and amazing instructions. See the complete line of products on the Brennan's Model Railroading website. Use the QR code to visit.
I encourage all of our participants, whether on Zoom or YouTube, to solicit Brennan's Model Railroading. Without sponsors, the show wouldn't be possible. Our expenses are nominal, but nevertheless, we have expenses. So solicit Brennan's model railroading. Now, I'd like to take a look on what's on tonight's route. We have three solid presentations this evening. Scratch building a G-scale locomotive, locomotives plural. Steve Biddinger and Steve Sherrill will be on the assist. I'm pleased to welcome O-scale modeler David Vaughn, an introduction to two-rail O-scale. We have a video on that. He'll do a brief introduction and take questions and answers. And then we have Greg Cassidy, a longtime supporter of New Tracks. He's going to do a nice presentation on how to create a model railroad presentation like one for this evening's program. Then we're going to return to our open discussion, improving New Tracks live program, and per one of our listeners, Bud, out of Pittsburgh, he suggested that perhaps we ask the question, what's on your workbench? So we'll start off with our ongoing look at the process of continuous improvement, improving New Tracks live. And then if we run out of time, or if we have enough time, then we'll switch to that subject or have that on another week. But before we roll into our first segment, we'd like to spotlight our New Tracks Mentoring Scholarship Program. Here's a short video, and I'll have a few words about our youth initiative.
Are you a model railroader going to college in academic year 2025-26? If you are pursuing a STEAM degree, apply for the New Tracks Modeling Mentoring Scholarship. For the 2025-26 academic year, 3 $2,000 scholarships will be available. You can apply online at the QR code shown or on the New Tracks Modeling website. Model railroaders can support the New Tracks Modeling Mentoring Scholarship, the only national scholarships for model railroaders from a nonprofit organization. Donate online on Zephy. All donations are tax deductible.
Now, I want to encourage everyone to participate in donating to our program, our scholarship program. We are very close to awarding 3 $2,000 scholarships. This will be the third year in a row that we've offered such scholarships. And it's from you, our participants, both on Zoom and on YouTube. And if you just do the numbers, I did this a couple of weeks ago. These shows, these Zoom shows get between 300 and 700 views, and the magazine approaches 9,000. The Facebook page, we're probably well over 10,000 people watching the New Tracks programs each and every week. Now, just imagine for a moment that everybody donated $1. $1, $10,000, $10, $100,000. We could increase the number of scholarships and the amount if everyone would just make a small donation. And it's very easy to do, and there's strength in numbers. And as we grow, we expect these platforms to grow. And there's nothing more worthwhile than youth in model railroading. So I ask you again for your generosity and your kindness to make a small donation. Get that. There's lots of ways to do it. You can write a check, go back to this video. These shows are broken out on YouTube. Go to YouTube, find the QR code, go to our website, find the QR code, or you can send a check the old-fashioned way by mail. I'm the treasurer of the New Tracks Scholarship Program. If you send me the check, I promise it goes right into the right into the New Tracks Mentoring Scholarship Fund. So again, I don't want to berate you, but it makes a difference, and we're trying to push youth in model railroading. And thank you for hearing me out. So now I'd like to begin the show. We're going to have, as I said, 3 solid presentations, and then we're going to go to our open discussion. And the first presentation is Steve Biddinger, News and Views G-scale. And he's going to show us how he scratch builds G-scale locomotives, or a locomotive, the research and just the whole process. He's a remarkable modeler, and I'm going to have the fortune to see his layout again in approximately 2 weeks. So with that introduction, Steve and Steve Sherrill, if you would. Unmute yourself. Phil Spottum.
Are we good?
Steve Biddinger.
Yes, we're good. Good to get.
He says iPhone. He's the guy. You see him there? He's wave at him so he knows who you are. There we go. Beautiful. Welcome to the show, and thank you for yet another, what I'm sure is going to be a fascinating presentation. So it's all yours.
Okay, so tonight, two-part program. I'm going to jump right in with the subscriber to ask for what's on your workbench, because that's where my workbench is at the moment. I got like 4 ongoing projects, which is like 3 too many. But anyway, I thought I would just try that subject, and then we'll go on to this building of the G-scale stuff. So previously, the last show, I was in the process of building a grain facility that I showed you all, quite large facility that was Ralston Perino, and that structure, almost all of it has been taken outside onto the new part of the railroad. Next section I got under construction are the grain storage areas that are going to go with it. So given that, here you go. This is what's on the workbench. I'm building 32-inch tall grain silos out of this material here. This is the 6-inch water line that you have in your city. These pipes come in 10 or 20-foot sticks. I had access to some scrap ones. This stuff is super heavy. I will tell you right now, a 10-foot stick of this is all you can do to carry it. It is super dense and super heavy. So no chance this is going to go bad outside. I have cut these into lengths, and I'm going to go over here and drag one over here in a second. And we'll have some humor at the same time, because I know you're going to tell me what the heck is that. This is not a ballistic rocket. I'll take that piece off. It looks more presentable. So again, this is the same material. Now we're at about 28 inches in height. It's had regular PVC ripped down and put onto it to start the process of building this up, and it'll have a base that goes along it. So then I was searching for a top, and I looked at a whole bunch of different ones online of actual facilities. And most of these grain facilities either have a dome or a peak top where they receive the grain to the top of it. So I realized that I wouldn't have much luck finding what I wanted, which was a cone shape. So I thought I'll just get a funnel. I went on Amazon, and they wanted to charge me a ridiculous amount of money for funnels. So I got off of there, and of all places, I went to Valvoline, their website, and they were selling me these funnels, which also have a spout on the end, for the nice price of $2.58. Way better than the $7 that Amazon wanted. So I've cut the end off of it. It had a little handle here on the side. I've taken that off, and this is going to go up here. And when this gets finished, there'll be a receiving platform traveling across the top of here. So it'll look a little more presentable when that's on there. Now, to go with this, on a rainy day the other day, this piece, which Steve may or may not be able to get the whole thing on camera. What do you think, Steve?
Whoops.
Too tall?
Too tall.
Too tall. So we'll drop it down for you a little bit. So this is the elevator that's taking the grain upwards before it's distributed to these. I have 4 of these that are going to be next to the factory. And this, again, PVC. I did fortunately run into these manways at an auction, super cheap for $1 a piece. And can't beat that price. The rest of it is scratch build parts. But this will be tall enough. It's way out of sight for you guys, I'm sure. But when we get further along, I will show you the finished product. And I won't have my missiles anymore to show you. So Sometimes you have failures. You want to see my failure. This was my first attempt at the top of this thing. This was a colander, which had lots of holes in it, but this was at the Dollar Tree for $1.25. I cut the handle off and I filled up the holes with some body putty. It was going to go on here and look like that. Now, it's not bad, but that was going to be super labor intensive and I was not up to that. So I gave up on that idea and switched to the idea, okay, we're going to do it with funnels. So that's what's on my workbench. And one last thing I will show you because it'll be relevant a little later on. That is this right here. So what's happening with this is, again, this was PVC lumber, 6 foot long boards, inch wide. I needed something about 1.5 inches tall to make the concrete, what's going to be the concrete base. When you cut PVC, it has a memory. You cut it, if you try to curl it up like this, it won't stay. It'll just straighten back out again on its own. It's a real effort to keep it in place when you glue it, forming, clamping, and so forth. So here's what I have learned. I have learned to curl it up like this and leave it like that for a couple of days. That's a big help in getting this stuff because it is going to be installed around the bottom of here on the outside. It'll be on to the outside of here when I'm all finished. So a couple of days like this, and I will have what I want. In the meantime, I can make the other parts, and that stuff will be ready to go when I get there. This one is trash. I'm done with that piece. Second part of tonight's program is, and this is not gauge specific whatsoever. This is a case of 5 years ago, I decided there's some pieces of rolling stock and equipment that I really would like to have. You go out and look, and no manufacturer has produced it, and it's not likely to. So I thought, okay, the solution is to start building this stuff yourself. And different people have asked, okay, how do you begin the process? So Steve's going to kind of walk me through what goes on here with a few leading questions to help me get myself organized.
Okay, Steve, after you have selected the model that you want to build, where did you get the research and the information about that model? You've got the interest, you're interested in building it. Where did you go to get the information to build it?
So step one was I had some books, in this case, that I looked at the photos in the books. And then I started thinking, all right, who would have more information than just a photo in a book? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and show you. This is my very first attempt ever at building anything. This was 5 years ago. This is a Western Maryland jitney that was used at Connellsville, Pennsylvania to transfer crews. So once I decided this was a piece I really wanted to have, I thought, okay, maybe a jitney exists, which I'm pretty sure it did based on what I saw in historical books. And the answer was the jitney, the real one, was sitting in Baltimore in storage at the B&O Museum. So I just cold called the people, and I got a young college kid on the phone down at the museum, had no clue what I was talking about. So after about 3 attempts, I finally got through to the relevant person who could say, yeah, we know about that. But unfortunately, the jitney had been damaged when the B&O Museum had a collapse during a terrible snowstorm and had been put away in storage. So I said, okay, can I get into your storage facility? And they said, well, we normally don't allow people back there because it's not part of the regular museum, but we'll get back to you. Well, they never did. So one day, a buddy of mine, we just got in the car, drove to Baltimore and walked in and said, hey, we're here. And we'd like to know if we can get access to seeing the jitney. And the gentleman who was there was a docent. He says, I don't know, but he said, I'll go find out. So shortly thereafter, he comes back and says, yeah, I can take you back there and unlock it and let you in. You got 1 hour. Do whatever you do. And in 1 hour, you got to be out of there. So we hustled back through all the stuff they had, found the jitney, moved all the debris and stuff they had from their Christmas decorations packed up around it, got in, photographed it. You measure these items, try to make sure you've gotten as much as you need, because odds are you're not going to get back in there again.
So you only had one visit to get everything you needed.
Yeah.
For information.
We had one visit on that one, yes.
Okay, now after you make the visit and you take the photos, do you make any drawings, anything like that? How do you figure out what the dimensions are?
Okay, so usually I take one or two fellows with me. And what we're doing is one of us has a tape measure. We're pulling measurements. The other one is making sketches. Fortunately, I have a friend who's a commercial artist from National Geographic. He's very good at making the sketches quickly. We call out the dimensions. There's a lot of things on, even something as simple as this, you won't believe, like every dimension of every window, running boards, the trims, moldings, light fixtures. Get down on your hands and knees, crawl around on the floor underneath, take pictures and measurements of everything you have there. So you have to really hustle to get all this together. We'll sketch it up, bring it back to the workshop. When we get back in the shop, now you make a better drawing on scale paper, moving the measurements around on there and getting it pretty close.
Did you find out if there were any former Western Maryland employees who had anything to do with the jitneys?
On this particular case, no. We didn't have access to anybody who actually worked at Connellsville and used the jitney. We're starting to get to a situation, for example, I went to work for Western Maryland when I was 19 years old. I was probably half the age of the next youngest person there, who was probably mid-30s. We're at a situation now that most of these people are no longer with us, and it's getting really, really difficult to find people who had firsthand experience with these. But when you can, it's a great help.
Did you ever go back to the Baltimore Society, the Baltimore Museum, and show your model?
So it's a kind of interesting story. Our model G-scale Railroad Society held one of their meetings in the wintertime inside the roundhouse. So I thought, well, as long as I'm going down there, it won't save me making a second trip. I'll just take the jitney with me along with another project I had built. And if the right people were there. So we got there on a Sunday and things were a little bit different. But once they got word that we were there with the jitney, the director of the museum happened to be there that day. So he comes down and he was all surprised to see this thing. And he said, wow, he said, would you like to take it outside and run it on our G-scale layout? And I said, yeah, sure, we'll take it out there and run it. I said, would you like to run it? And he said, oh yeah, how do I do it? So I gave him the controls and showed him, because this is battery powered and remote controlled. And we took the other engine we had. He had a great time running this around the museum. It was a nice day, a real nice day.
You want to tell anything about construction?
So yes, real quickly. So what do I build these out of? That's the question. A lot of people think I 3D print these. I don't know anything about 3D printing. I'm too old for that technology. But anyway, I build these out of styrene, PVC, anything I can get my hands on that I think is going to work correctly. On this particular one, the sides of this one are built out of vinyl siding, like it's on your house. I used siding, flipped it over backwards, cut out the windows, the doors, the openings, etc. The front piece on here, this was a block of that PVC I showed you earlier. Just glued the blocks together until I had a rectangular block. Then I just started carving it with the Dremel tool. Carving to get the two radiuses, which is not easy. I found out making two radiuses at the same time. The frame itself is a piece of PVC, and if I flip this thing up in the air, you can see this motor block underneath came out of a Bachmann speeder that they sold that was about 3 inches long. I just sawed the motor block in half, took the motor rear portion and moved it back, built a new motor block and reset it back to the length that I need, because I needed those small diameter wheels, and that worked out perfect on there. The rest of the detail parts, these are brass and fittings and so forth. I just use scrap. The mirrors on here, believe it or not, are chewing gum wrappers. That's the silver foil that got wrapped in. When you press it out, it makes nice mirrors. And if we take the roof off and we look inside, here's the guy driving, have the battery and the guts and everything.
Get back a little closer, Steve. Yeah.
On the inside. So everything fits in there pretty neatly. This one runs on an MRC system with sound. So turned out to be a neat little piece, and it got me all excited. So I went from there. And now I'm like 8 projects on building things.
So that's all? The only project you've been to, these two?
No. So I thought I would show you the most recent one completed. And that is this piece here. Some of you may be familiar with the Hagerstown Roundhouse Museum in Hagerstown, Maryland. That's the site of what was the Western Maryland Railroad's large service facility. Most of that has been torn down, but one building was retained, and they now house the Hagerstown Roundhouse Museum. And it not only covers Western Maryland, but all the railroads that were in Hagerstown. On display at the museum, they have one locomotive, which is this one. This is a VO 1000 that was built by Baldwin back in the mid-40s. And I've driven by this thing for 20 years, I bet. When you're in Hagerstown, it's easy to see off the highway. In this case, I got a hold of Jerry Smith. He is the director of the Hagerstown Roundhouse Museum to get access to this locomotive. Here's this kind of difficult part. They have a siding that runs parallel to CSX tracks. There's literally about 8 feet separation between the locomotive track and CSX active track. They will let you go 6 feet beyond this locomotive on the backside to do anything. I mean, they are strict about it. And here's good reason why. We went up and photographed this locomotive, got all the measurements. 2 months later, CSX had a serious derailment right at this point. And one of the large grain cars in that ended up just 20 feet from this locomotive. It actually struck the caboose that was parked behind it. So this is not just over caution on their part. It's a situation of this is the kind of thing that can happen on railroad properties that you just have to really be careful. Secondly, here's the hardest part about building models. There are literally very, very photographs of the top of locomotives. Everybody photographs them from the ground. Unless somebody's up on a bridge, and years ago, we didn't have drones or anything like this, almost nothing about the details on the top of this engine were available. Even at the Western Maryland Historical Society, they're a great help to me. I go there frequently, and their archivist down there, he knows me well, and he digs out all kinds of things that I need. So the plans and so forth for this one, we did have the plans from Baldwin, the original plans, and with some modifications over the year, these engines get changed a lot. So when I build something, I build it the way it looked the day it was delivered from the manufacturer. That's my goal when I build them. And if I flip this piece off the top, just for the sake of looking inside, I don't know if Steve can see that or not, but in here we have the controls for everything, charging ports that we need for this. And this particular locomotive is the very first one I built that the remote even operates with couplers. And we can couple and uncouple cars remotely off of these knuckles here in the front. They'll actuate with a solenoid. And it's kind of a neat feature, especially for a switcher, since you do a lot of switching with these things. That works out real handy on those. So my next project, I will tell you about it. We are currently, 3 of us have gone and worked on a new one. There are no available models in any scale of the S6 locomotive. This one, I don't have one up here for you, but the S2 and the S4 locomotives that were put out by Alco, you can get those in N scale, HO scale. I don't know about S, but O. Not one manufacturer makes an S6. So it just happens that the very last locomotive purchased by the Western Maryland Railroad from Alco was an S6. They bought 2 of them in 1956. They were delivered together on the very same day. I managed to do my research on these. I got the original invoice for those locomotives with all the expenses, all the details that were ordered. For example, Western Maryland had about $4,000 in modifications that they asked for. So that's why it's important when you go out. Somebody says, oh, it's an S6. Yes, but every railroad had something a little bit different from the next guy. And it's really shows up when you get there and start looking at photographs that somebody else has on another railroad. And then you look at these and you say, oh, yeah, I see how they changed this. I see how they added that. So in this case, recently, I found a locomotive, an S6 in Western Maryland on the Middletown-Homestown Railroad, and that's in Middletown, Pennsylvania, near Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So I just cold called them, and the lady answered the phone, and it turned out she was the gift shop operator. And she probably thought, who's this guy calling up here wanting to get access to our locomotive? And she said, well, I'll tell the president of the railroad you called, and he'll get back to you. I thought, we'll see. But yes, 3 days later, he called me back and he said, I understand exactly what it is. He said, what can we do to help you? So they made it possible for us to have the locomotive for half a day. And in this case, Steve mentioned, do you ever find people who actually worked on these things? And in this case, the answer was yes. This locomotive was delivered to them in 1994. They bought it. The gentleman who has operated this locomotive for 35 years, his name is Charlie High. They had him come and meet with us, and he spent literally hours with us inside and outside the locomotive. That type of situation is rare to find somebody who has 35 years experience with the particular model that you're building. So I promised them that when we get this S6 finished, it'll be a couple months, we'll be back and let them run it. In the past, taking engines back and they've run around on their conference tables in some of these places, but that's where I am right now. So when I get back to you again on the next build, you'll be looking for Western Maryland S6 from the Middletown Homestown Railroad.
Steve, the decals that we see on your models,
yes,
and the handrails, you make the handrails, I believe.
In some cases, yes, I have to make them.
And the decals or lettering is, how do you get that?
I have a fellow in Pennsylvania, Shawmut Car Shops, who make the decals in G-scale for me.
And so you get the authenticity of the proper lettering?
Yes.
All out of a book or?
From the Historical Society.
Okay.
Right from the Historical Society, I'm looking for all the detailed data sheets, everything as it was in the case of the engine coming up in 1956. Yes. So we get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was a great presentation, Steve and Steve. And we are a live Zoom show. This is an opportunity for any of our participants in Zoom have some questions for Steve.
Well, Steve, this is Larry McDonald. I do a bit of outdoor railroading, and I'm very impressed with your scratch building. I haven't come across somebody scratch building like that in G-scale. Very nice. And the fact that how you do your research, that's that's amazing. And the opportunities you had to meet the engineer that was on that locomotive for 30 years. That's very nice.
Any other questions for Steve? He is a
Hey, Steve, Greg Cassidy. We saw you building that beautiful Ralston building last time you were on. If you get a chance, could you maybe get a picture of that and have Steve show it, the other Steve show it next time he's on the show? I think we'd all love to see how that got situated.
Oh, I thought you were going to tell me you were going to attend one of our operating sessions and take the photos.
I might be able to make one. I can find some time. But
yeah.
Steve has a beautiful layout, as I'm sure Tom will probably share with us at some point. But I'd love to see how that Ralston building settled in there.
I'll take a photo myself in 2 weeks.
Terrific.
Well, it's still a work in progress. So, but you can take a picture of where it is. You know, it's getting there. Actually, I'll tell you what. Here you go. Andy came over here this afternoon. My buddy, one of our operators, and to get to the new part of the railroad, we have to cross over what I call the River Isle, which is the walkway between the new benchwork. So I have a new bridge that is a drop leaf bridge. Literally, each half of the bridge drops down against both sides of the benchwork. I don't know if anybody's ever built a drop leaf bridge that folds in the middle, but that's the way this one does. And we got the track work laid in place today. We had to bend an 8-foot section of track work to get it to strike the abutments correctly and go across. And we took the first test car across it at about 5 o'clock this afternoon. So now, Greg, yes, there is access to the Ralston arena facility.
Well, for those that aren't familiar, and I know in some of your previous presentations, you've shown some of this, but Steve's Garden Railroad is not one that's set on the ground. It's elevated, and I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
It also connects with his indoor G-scale railroad. It's an amazing place. It's just, it'll be very well photographed in 2 weeks.
I quit using the word. I don't really like. I think the word garden railroad has gone out, because to say indoor garden railroad is a bit of an oxymoron. I just tell people it's G-scale railroading. It's simpler.
Hey, Steve, Earl Hackett here. Hey, what was that company that made your decals?
It's Shawmut, Shawmut, car shops in St. Mary's, Pennsylvania. And operator of the business is Jeff Demarest.
Spell the last name.
Demerest. And you all have probably seen some of Jeff's work. He does a lot of the prototypes for USA trains. He paints and decorates their stuff for them when they're making a prototype.
St. Mary's, PA used to be the powdered metallurgy capital of the world. I don't know if it still is.
I can't help you there. I don't know.
One of my old businesses. Are there any other questions for Steve while we have him on?
Yeah, so he mentioned G-scale. So Steve, what scale are you building those in? 120 or 124 or?
Okay. The jitney that I showed you is 124, correct?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you know how G-scale is. So here's the consistency. Everything runs on a 45 millimeter track, right? That's it. After that, the scale factor, boy, what a range. So the locomotive I showed you here earlier was 132nd. Is built to 132nd. That's straight number 1 gauge.
Yeah.
It's number 1 gauge. When most of the stuff I build about 124th, sometimes 125th.
I like those, but they moved up to 120 so that the width of the garden railroad, commercial track, scaled to 3 feet. So they just kept building up the scale to that scaled out. But 124th was nice. It just had a nice feel to it. That's
Yes, I don't operate anything at that scale. The predominant for my equipment is 129th. There's a reason for that, is because at least the manufacturers started producing first generation diesels back in the early 2000s. And that's the scale that they're available in. So my railroad is 1967 is the era. And the equipment that I build is from that time frame.
Oh, very good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for another wonderful presentation, and it's much appreciated. Next up, we have David Vaughn, and before we run David Vaughn, we want to run the sponsor, O-Scale Central. Hang in there a minute, David. Or not. We'll do it at the end of his presentation. Okay, Phil, let's cue to David. Oh, here we go. All right. Well,
having a Zoom video playback issue. Go ahead.
Welcome, David. I appreciate you being on the show. And David is kind enough to do a presentation for us on O-Scale 2 rail. And he's a big proponent of O-Scale. Most of you know, I switched from N-scale for the very reasons David's always talking. If you want a model, you want a scratch build, and you've got 60-year-old eyes, it's a good step in the right direction. So welcome, David. Show's all yours. Go ahead.
Thank you, Tom. I'm here tonight for O-Scale Central. We promote O-Scale 2 Rail and we support modelers in the scale. O-Scale Central and NewTrax Modeling have a strong and mutually supportive relationship. We're one of the NewTrax Modeling sponsors for both the online programs and for the new magazine. We think O-Scale is greatly benefited by working with NewTrax, and we hope that NewTrax Modeling feels the same way about O-Scale. Well, I was going to say I'm not going to let any cats out of the bag when I say that Jim Kello, Tom Farrell, Phil Endholm, and several other folks on the call are already O-scalers. So we might be a minority scale in other parts of model railroading, but not on this program, and probably not with NewTrax Modeling. So it's not entirely a surprise that we have a strong relationship. Jim Kello suggested that I might talk tonight about the concrete steps that people can take when they convert to O-Scale 2 rail from another scale. And I thought that was a great idea. Some of our best and most active modelers have been converts from other scales. Tom just gave his own example of coming from N to into O-Scale. But I thought Jim was leaving out a very important step, and like letting people know why they should convert to O-Scale. And even more, I know there are a lot of modelers, including some who will are on this call or will see the videos later, who are not familiar with O-Scale 2 rail. When we go out and display our layouts, we get people coming out and asking what happened to the center rail. So we have an educational shortfall out there to make people familiar with the scale. Fortunately, we have a video which lays out in a nice compact 10 minutes what O-Scale is all about, why it's a great scale, why you should consider switching to O-Scale 2 rail, and then how to do it. So we'll play the introduction, and I'll then have some follow-on comments and take any questions that you all might have. Hello, I'm David Vaughn of O-Scale Central. O-Scale 2 rail is a model railroad scale of 1/4 inch to the foot, 1 to 48, running on 2 rail track. O-Scale Central is a membership organization that promotes O-Scale 2 rail, or OS2R, and supports modelers in the scale. O-Scale 2 rail is the best kept secret in model railroading. We're working to fix that. In this video, we will present an overview of the scale and outline why you should make OS2R a part of your modeling. Model railroading has always been fun. That's true regardless of scale or level of prototype detail or operation. But to toot our own horn, O-Scale 2 rail is special. We are a big-time scale and our fun is big time. O-Scale has detail you can see, mass you can feel, and models easy and satisfying to build. At twice the proportion and 8 times the mass of HO, O-Scale's heft allows equipment to perform better and feel more prototypical. Its size makes detailing and weathering both easier to apply and easier to see. Operation is more satisfying when equipment and uncoupling are more reliable, car numbers are easier to read, and trains better duplicate the feel of the prototype. DCC and sound are not only easier to install in larger O-Scale engines, but the sound quality from our larger speakers is a significant step up. O-Scale 2 rail is as varied as railroading itself. Modern trains, transition era or old time, standard gauge or narrow, mainline, branch lines, or trolleys. Let's take in some of the action on OS2R layouts, large and small. Our modelers are into everything from the latest diesels and double stacks, back to the Civil War, and every era and variety between. Narrow gauge layouts allow small engines and spectacular scenery. ON30 even offers O-scale trains running on HO gauge track and curves. O-scale traction offers city running with street corner radius curves. A wide variety of OS2R models is available at affordable prices comparable to quality HO. The ease of modeling in OS2R creates an outstanding modeling experience. If you've been building and running trains in smaller scales, it will be 8 times as good in O-scale. Just saying. You can find out more about O-scale 2-rail at our website, oscalecentral.com. There you will find information about the scale, how to get started, and a list of answers to frequently asked questions. The O-Scale Central website also offers a free product and service guide. The trademarked guide is indexed and searchable. It lists over 200 vendors who produce OS2R products and provide service to the scale. The website also lists coming OS2R shows and events, Facebook pages, O-Scale clubs, and modular groups and OS2R publications. O-Scale Central is a nonprofit 501c tax-exempt membership organization. O-Scale Central is also the National Model Railroad Association's designated special interest group for O-Scale. We work with NMRA to ensure O-Scale's presence in NMRA meets and conventions. O-Scale Central presents a monthly online program of news, interviews, layout tours, and clinics of interest to O-Scale 2-rail modelers. We publish a quarterly journal and a newsletter, both online, and sponsor a YouTube channel accessible through the website. OSC also provides outreach to all scale train shows to display the advantages of O-Scale 2-rail. On the website, you will find information about how to join and participate in O-Scale Central. Dues are only $24 per year. Membership gives you access to members-only benefits, as well as supporting the many scale-wide programs and services we provide. I also recommend O-Scale Resource, a free online bi-monthly magazine with over 100 pages per issue, as well as an in-depth O-Scale Trains Annual, which is available in hard copy from White River Publications. A number of manufacturers produce ready-to-run models, Craftsman or shake-the-box kits in O-Scale. As examples, Atlas has a full line of engines and rolling stock and a complete line of prefab and sectional track and turnouts. The Atlas website is atlasrr.com. Sunset Third Rail imports a full range of diesels, electrics, steam locomotives, and passenger trains. Their website is 3rdrail.com. Dozens of other companies produce ready-to-run models and kits, either to be built as is or kit bashed to match your favorite prototype. Current production and the hundreds of thousands of models produced over the long history of O-Scale remain available through the very active secondary market of retailers, train shows, the O-Scale train section on eBay, as well as specialized auctions, websites such as O-Scale Yard Sale, and the vendors in our guide. Models are easily available. 3D printing, which allows CAD-based drawings of equipment and detail parts to be printed on home or commercial printers, is spreading rapidly. The process produces incredible detail and has minimal development cost, no minimum orders, and essentially no inventory. 3D printing will significantly impact on model railroading in all scales, but nowhere more than O-Scale 2-rail. The scale has a bright future. Manufacturers and modelers have been producing O-Scale models for well over a century. We all stand in the shoes of generations of O-Scale modelers who have gone before us. Which leads us to what the model railroading hobby and O-Scale in particular are all about. There's satisfaction in building, owning, and running models, and it is certainly possible to pursue your hobby as a lone wolf, whether from choice or necessity. Many modelers do it. But in the end, much of the satisfaction in model railroading comes from the friends we make and the experiences we share. O-Scale 2-Rail has great people. Whether in an O-Scale club, a modular group, a Facebook page, a special interest group, online programs, or just informal gatherings of friends, O-Scale modelers welcome those new to the scale and help them get started, sharing tips and techniques. Getting plugged into the OS2R community will enhance your modeling satisfaction. Modelers can get stale. We all benefit from fresh challenges. A new scale, particularly one with great potential for modeling satisfaction, will give your modeling a boost. We hear all the time from modelers in other scales that they like O-Scale but feel they cannot convert. Modelers do not have to leave their present equipment or scale to model in O-Scale 2-Rail. Keep your models in your layout, but purchase an O-Scale kit, join an O-Scale group, attend an O-Scale show, watch O-Scale layout tours, tune in to an O-Scale online program. You will be amazed. Modelers express concern that O-Scale can be too expensive, takes too much room, and that the variety of equipment will be too limited. We call those the myths of O-Scale. None are true. Let's take them head on. Between current production and legacy equipment available on the secondary market, anything available in smaller scales is available in OS2R. Here's a tip. If you decide to switch, selling off your present scale equipment will finance your O-Scale purchases. It worked for me. It's true that O-Scale 2-Rail takes 4 times the area as HO, but layouts in O-Scale can be built on a shelf or in a small area to replicate branch lines, model selective slices of larger prototypes, or reflect layout themes such as switching, operations, narrow gauge, or traction. For modelers who need to scratch a mainline itch, lots of track plans for larger areas are available, but access to club layouts or participation in modular groups can help fill the need. So if you're O-Scale curious, start with oscalecentral.com. Join O-Scale Central. Take it where it leads you. You will be glad you did. Thanks for hanging with us for this introduction to O-Scale 2-Rail. We want to lose that best-kept secret designation and become your scale. When your eyes are going bifocular, or when you need a fresh challenge, try OS2R. Thanks.
What an excellent video, David.
Well, I want to thank Phil Endholm, Ryan Schroyer, and Nick Bulgarino for their work putting that together. It really was a group effort, and I think we packed a lot into the 10 minutes. The video is available for view or reviewing on the O-Scale Central website. That's oscalecentral.com, along with our other parts of our YouTube channels. We have a lot of layout tours, and we have a long list of the monthly O-Scale Central online programs that are available. So we hope that people will follow up. You can do a lot of exploration about O-Scale and never spend a dime until you are satisfied that it is something that's going to work for you. Everybody's O-Scale experience is a little bit different. Jim Kello is primarily a trolley modeler. Phil Endholm and Tom Farrell are narrow gauge modelers, and there is almost a whole little sub-hobby of the ON30 community, which people have a lot of fun and a lot of satisfaction with. Let me stop at this point and inquire whether people have comments or questions either about the video or about larger issues in O-Scale 2-Rail itself.
Any questions for David? Now's the time.
Tom,
Hey,
it's Eric Schroing. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Good. David, what's the status of ON3 lately? Just curious. Is there a lot of ON3 modelers out there?
Well, I tell you, Tom Farrell and Phil Endholm would probably be the better people to respond. My impression is that ON3 has not had the kind of growth that ON30 has had. There's been a lot of energy in ON30. I think ON3 is still there. There is a lot of really beautiful equipment out there in ON3. But if you're looking for a lot of enthusiasm, I think it's probably more on the ON30 side.
Yeah, I think
Now
that's some, yeah.
Go ahead, Tom. Did you?
The ON3, all these scales are wonderful, but if you want true prototypical narrow gauge, then perhaps you pursue ON3. But there's a lot of us that are doing ON30 with modeling that is basically world class. So, ON30, there's a lot more availability at a lower cost. Really, really depends what you're after.
Yeah, no, my grandfather was an ON3 modeler. I don't know whether you can see. I just have one of the kits here, the mainline model kits that's still in the box. So, in
The issue in
ON3.
the issue in converting ON3 stuff to ON30 is its proportions.
Yeah.
You can put ON30 trucks on there, and they're just larger cars. I've got. I think you do one or the other, to be honest.
Yeah. So this is Phil. I think, a couple of comments here. I think there's two things about ON30. As Tom said, ON3 tended to be a brass hobby
Right.
from a locomotive perspective, and that tended to drive a certain cost point. Clearly Bachmann through the years has built this, now it's literally in the market, as David said, in the secondary market, a large number of engines built using the, lower cost manufacturing and plastic techniques. So I think that's kind of one of the things that ON30 has always been kind of the poorer man's way into narrow gauge. The other thing is that if you're pedantic about narrow gauge in the United States, it was predominantly three rail. And if you want to model Colorado three rail, I think ON30 has a much more natural draw to you. If what you're mounting is more what I'll call almost generic or other areas, the compromise of using a 2 foot 6 inch 30-inch gauge track doesn't become significant. And then of course you add to that, there's a slightly different scale, because especially in Colorado, the railroads there existed into the 50s and 60s. Most of the narrow gauge railroads in the rest of the United States went away before 1920. So you tend to have a reflection of the size of cars, the size of equipment. Most of those small rail, for example, I live in California. The narrow gauge railroads in California never used anything of the size that was in Colorado. So it kind of gives you this license to be semi-prototypical, but run smaller scale. And coming back to David's comment, the thing that's important about O scale is area is a square, but detail is almost a cube. It's 1.85 cubes. So you get 8 times as much detail in an O scale model as an HO model. So it gives you the cool thing about narrow gauge, and especially ON30, is the prototypes you model are so much smaller than an O scale. An ON30 boxcar is actually about the same size as a 50-foot high cube boxcar in HO scale.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, if you've got a boxcar that's relatively small, now the building is smaller. So, if you have an HO building of a certain size to actually match as a prototype to HO boxcars, you can now take an O scale building that is physically the same size, and it matches well to a couple of ON30 boxcars. So, there's this capability of scaling because the communities were smaller and et cetera. So I think it's this compromise where it becomes kind of more of a modeler scale versus a prototyping scale or modeling a specific prototype. The problem with ON30 is if you want to model 1950s railroading, whether it be narrow gauge or standard gauge, it's a challenge.
Yeah, it's more about locomotives.
Can I make a particular plug that applies regardless of gauge? And that is when you get up to 1 to 48, you can get some incredible levels of details and realism. And although I am reluctant to do this, Phil, can you do screen share for me? Let's just see if something works. There's always a scary part of live online programming.
You can share if you want to. Just click on the share icon on the bottom of the screen. Click on share on the bottom. It's turned on. You can share. So the little green thing with the arrow on the bottom, share there. And then if you click on the upper left, when that opens, that's actually your screen. So we'll see whatever you see.
Okay.
And Zoom will go away.
All right.
Here.
There we go. Okay. Bing.
Or click on the picture you want to show.
Okay. I just did that and I can see. Here we go. No, bingo.
There you go.
Okay. Can you all see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That is an O-scale boxcar, and you got to have a pretty sharp eye to be able to distinguish that from the real thing.
Yeah, that's pretty.
So anyway, I just wanted to, I've got a bunch of those, but we'll leave it there. Thank you all for the opportunity to appear and check out O-scale 2-rail. It's oscalecentral.com. Thank you.
Thank you,
Well
David.
done.
Excellent presentation. One more for bragging rights.
Yeah.
Let's see here. That's O-scale narrow gauge. Everybody see that? He asked in wonderment. Yeah. So that's all scratch built, but it's a builder scale. Yeah. That was excellent video and great presentation. And of course, all scales are relevant and all scales have their advantages and disadvantages. I was in N scale from its very inception back in the mid 60s to 2005. All reasons for all different scales. Well, next up, we have our final presentation before we switch to our open discussion. And this is Greg Cassidy on how to create a model railroad presentation. But before we have Greg, we're going to run our MyBuild video and have some words from Chris Corse.
Don't miss the monthly New Tracks Modeling MyBuild event. MyBuild is where the modelers of New Tracks show what they have been building. See amazing modeling with some MyBuilds featuring specific topics for modeling. If you would like to have your models included in the MyBuild, please email your modeling photos to Chris Corse at railrunner130@hotmail.com. If you are a first-time MyBuild participant, please include a photo of yourself.
Chris, if you'd like to say a few words on the MyBuild program, one of our most popular segments on New Tracks Live.
Sure. Thanks, Tom. Hello, everyone. Chris Corse, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the MyBuild. We have a MyBuild coming up in, 3 weeks on the 25th of June. And Phil, if you could throw that slide up, please. Anyway, I guess I'll keep talking. For the MyBuild, the feature this month, the challenge this month is water. And to participate, please email me your photos by the 22nd. That's railrunner130@hotmail.com. And hey, Phil, if you could show that slide with the QR code and all that on it, please. Because we have a survey that we're trying to run. We need participants. Okay, so there's what we have. The upcoming MyBuild is June 25th. The theme is water. Whatever you can do to fit in that, waterfronts, boats, bridges, etc. And we're also going to do, there it is, we need people to fill out this survey. There's two ways you can do it. If you've got a smartphone and you're watching this on your laptop or whatever, then you can scan that QR code. It'll take you right to that survey. And if not, you can type in that URL at the bottom there. And I think Phil's going to put up the URL in the chat box there.
I'll throw it in the chat.
Thank you. If you could please take a couple minutes, I think it's like 6 questions. If you could fill out that survey, we've had 11 responses. We have a lot more viewers than that, so we need a lot of data so we can come up with the best MyBuilds for the coming year for the challenge shows. Yep, there it is. So if you could please take the time, fill out that survey. And or if you send us photos, that would be great. Get those to us by the 22nd. And then the back to July, we'll have a free-for-all show. And also on skipping back for a second, on the next MyBuild, we will have the results from that survey. So skipped around a little bit. Sorry about that. And I'll turn it back over to you, Tom.
Well, thank you, Chris. And I want to encourage our participants on the Zoom show and, of course, on the YouTube, participating in the MyBuild with taking some photographs of a particular project that you're doing or model that you've finished is a relatively simple task. And Chris will bring them into the PowerPoint. You need only to speak to your slides. We'd like that MyBuild program to run for the majority of a show. That accomplishes 2 things. One, the idea is to have variety on the show and different scales, different models, different techniques. You can speak to that in a brief presentation. And it makes for a stronger show. And perhaps more importantly, it gives me a break because it's a lot easier when there's one long show to do all this programming. But it does, in all honesty, make for a more interesting show because we get a wide variety of scales, people, projects. So give it a shot. Try a MyBuild presentation. Okay, next up, we've got our friend and longtime supporter, Greg Cassidy. He's going to show you how to do a presentation for New Tracks or a model railroad clinic or train show. Greg?
Well, thank you, Tom. Let me bring everything up here. All right, hello, everyone. Most of you know me, I'm Greg. And I'm going to run through a quick presentation about how to create a model railroad presentation. We're going to use that word a lot. Before I start it, I want to say that I appreciate both Steve's and David for doing their presentations before this one, because it gave you 2 of the 3 different formats that you sometimes can see presentations being done online. Steve's was live, Dave's was a video. And now we're going to go through a slideshow, as most people call it. So let me start going through this. I do want to say that most of this is taken from an article that's written. So there's a lot of text, but I have thrown some photos in it to make it a little less boring. Now, so you're thinking about creating a model railroad presentation, and it doesn't have to be model railroad, any type of railroad presentation. One thing about this hobby is we're all exceedingly passionate about it. Some of us have different aspects of it that really drive us. It might be modeling, it might be running trains, it might be the history of railroads or the history of railroad equipment. There are a lot of things that you might find passionate, and one of the things that I find many modelers and railroaders like to do is to share their passion. Now, things that you might want to share could be a technique, something that you built, or something that you learned how to build, or something that you want to share with someone about a tip that you picked up or something that you developed. Sharing that kind of stuff is good for the hobby, and it's also enjoyable if you feel comfortable doing it. You can present your information in person to an audience or online also to an audience. And it isn't just to help you feel more fulfilled and to help sharing stuff. If you're working towards an NMRA Achievement Program certificate, it can help fulfill some of those requirements as well. So I'll go through breaking down how you can create and deliver a presentation. First thing I want to clear up is it a clinic or is it a presentation? And while there are definitions of these, we use the words interchangeably quite often. But very often it boils down to a clinic being something that is teaching a skill or a technique, whereas a presentation is sharing information either through photos or through talking about it. And there is some crossover, and very often a presentation can include parts that are a clinic. Both of them can be delivered in person to an audience or online. If you're working towards an AP certificate, they can count in different ways, and you'll see that later. So what should you present? It might be something that interests you. It might be something that you've picked up and you really think would help other people. There's nothing like sharing something with other modelers and they go, wow, that really helped me. That makes you feel good and it helps the hobby. Now, things that you might be interested in sharing or talking about could be either a structure or a scene on a diorama or a model railroad that you created, or a technique that you've developed, maybe something that you're doing in weathering or in painting. Some information about a specific railroad that you're interested in. It could be the railroad you're modeling and you just found out some information that you think some of your friends could find useful. It could be your layout or a modular setup at a show that you want to share with some of your friends or an audience. It could be something about a tool that you've just discovered or using a tool that isn't necessarily used for that purpose, but you found a way to make that work. Again, when you see somebody, their eyes open wide, when you say, yeah, you can use this for that, it makes you feel good. Now, whether you're presenting live, it could be at a club or a division or an online platform like NewTracks or some other Zoom clinics. Our Potomac division does a monthly Zoom clinic. Your format's going to depend on the topic and the audience, whether it's a live audience and you're doing it in person or online. This shows a variety of different ways of doing presentations. The one in the upper right shows a live presentation or a live clinic where a fellow modeler was showing how he creates gravel. Below that is a clinic that I was giving to an online audience. On the upper left is a presentation about something that was built being presented online. And on the lower left is an actual presentation of the history of a particular railroad. So clinics, presentations, they can be done in person, they can be done online. And choosing your format is not always going to be up to you. Usually, if you have something that you want to share and you've gotten together with a group, they're going to control whether you're doing it to a live audience, because it might be a meeting, or it might be a club get together, or it might be an NMRA division meeting, or it could be something online. Again, it could be a club type meeting. We do ours online once a week, or it could be something like New Tracks or an NMRA division online. Now, if you're doing a live presentation, as you saw with Steve, sometimes props like rolling stock and stuff are great to show online. Steve has an advantage that his equipment is very big. If he was showing some HO or N-scale equipment, the other Steve would have to have his phone in a lot closer to be able to see it. Now, if you're doing a live presentation using photographs, you can use a laptop or a digital projector to show your slides on a screen. There's a couple different formats. I've been at ones where you're showing it on a screen. There are others where it'll just be shown on a large format TV screen. This is me a couple of years ago doing a presentation for our division, and it was just a laptop that was talking to the projector up at the top, and I would just step through the slides as I was commenting on them. Now, if you're doing an online presentation, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be using Zoom. There are others, but they're just not used as much for casual get-togethers like this. More often than not, photos and slides will show up better online than physical objects. It's not to take anything from Steve's display. He has the advantage of large equipment. But I have seen people trying to show something like a small locomotive in HO or N scale on their video camera. And because of things like lighting or background and stuff, it sometimes doesn't work very well. If you are going to be showing something larger, like perhaps a layout, I have seen that done using a phone as a camera on Zoom, and it can work, again, if you have enough lighting, but you want to move your camera very slowly. It's real easy to be moving the camera as you're talking, and people are trying to keep up with it without getting motion sickness. So if you're showing something like a layout, move your camera slowly. Now, whether you're doing a live or a virtual presentation, images are really good at telling your story. The old saying, picture's worth 1,000 words. You'll want to use sharp and well-lit photographs without a cluttered background. And sometimes you have to work with what you have. But if you're able to take photos, consider taking the photo of what you want to talk about without any type of clutter in the background, using some type of backdrop like a white poster board. I tend to use a piece of foam core that I always keep sitting by my bench. That can help isolate what you're talking about or what you want the audience to be able to see. If you need to show some small detail like brake rigging or the interior of something, make sure that it's well lit and that the photograph really shows what you're talking about, instead of just, if you can see under there in the shadows, that's what I'm talking about. Try to avoid that. As I said, if you're doing video, and this is more often with a layout or something, try to avoid being shaky or fast moving. Now, if you're taking video of an actual locomotive, you're doing a presentation about a particular railroad or something, then usually you don't need to worry about that. And if you're using photographs, try to get as many as you can. And that gives you the opportunity to go through them and pick out the best ones that actually illustrate what you're trying to communicate with your audience. Now we're going to move into PowerPoint or an equivalent program. What I'm working in right now is PowerPoint, and this is usually your go-to program for going through photographs. Now, if you're doing a photo presentation, whether it's to a live audience or online, you can just have your series of photographs and step through them as you're talking about them. And I've seen effective presentations done that way. The advantage of using a program like PowerPoint allows you to put text or highlights or arrows, stuff like that, onto your photographs so that your audience is really clued in about what you're talking about. If you want to highlight something or if you want some text to really drive the point home. And using PowerPoint is pretty easy. You don't have to be an expert in it just to bring photos in and then be able to step through them. Being able to add stuff like graphics and text is not difficult. If you do want to learn more about it, there are plenty of online tutorials that you can go to. This shows a presentation that I had done here on NewTracks a couple of years ago, and this was just one of the slides, and it shows how I added text and arrows pointing out what I was trying to illustrate to the audience at the time. And this was one of the build-alongs that we had back then. I kind of enjoy this stuff because this is what I used to do at work. But it's very simple to do, and you can get as basic or as elaborate as you want to. Whatever you're going to be doing your clinic on or your presentation on, you want to know the topic. I had to give a presentation last year, and it was something that I had been using for a while, but I didn't really know a lot about how I was using it, or how I could communicate to others how I was using it. So I actually had to do a fair bit of research online. And I not only found enough to help me give the presentation, but I learned a lot more that helped me in my everyday use of the item. If you're using images that you got off the internet, be a little careful about them. If it's easy to get permission to use it, it's worth trying to. Your presentation is not going to be seen by thousands and thousands of people, most likely. But you don't want to be put in the position where somebody gets in touch with you and says, I didn't give you permission to use that. And it is possible to get in trouble for that. So if you can, get permission. If you can't, people fly under the radar, but it's something to be aware of. When you're talking over your presentation, whether it's just photos or you're using something like PowerPoint, or even if you're doing a live presentation and you're handing stuff around for people to see, your personality will determine whether it's easy for you to talk freely about the subject, or if you need to make some kind of outline or something to follow along to make sure you cover all of your points and don't start rambling, which sometimes can lead your audience to start losing attention. And that's going to be different for every person. If you are using a show like, or an application like PowerPoint, don't cover your slides with a lot of text. Sometimes that can just get a little boring. And I will point out that this presentation has a lot of text, but as I said, that's because it was brought from an article which was almost all text. Now, if you're going to be using Zoom for your presentation, it throws a couple of curveballs of its own. I am happy to say that if you're watching this presentation on our live Zoom show, then you've at least mastered Zoom well enough to log on and get to the show. Now, if you're going to be doing a presentation in Zoom, there's a couple more steps that you need to go, but it's nothing that isn't difficult. You want to prepare your presentation beforehand and have it open on your desktop before you log in, and definitely before you're ready to start sharing. You can't open the application or your photographs once you're in the share window. You have to have them already opened so that they're ready to be selected. And I'll have some images after this that will show what I'm talking about. At the bottom of the screen is the green share button. Some people call it a scare button. That's very well highlighted, and that gets you into the window where you can select what you're going to show. Once you're in that window, you select either the photo or the PowerPoint program, and that's when you start sharing. If you're using something like PowerPoint, then you need to go to full screen, and I'll show you 2 ways that you can do that. Now, this shows my desktop, and before I would log into Zoom or before I would go to share, I would want to open this program. Excuse me. Have it open on your desktop, and then Zoom will be open over that. Then you come down here to the share button when it's your turn to share, and that's when you're ready to start your presentation. That'll open up your share window, which looks like this. And usually on the far left is going to be what's open on your desktop. And that's what you want to select. Now, it may be the first photo of a series of photos that you have that you want to step through, or it could be your PowerPoint program. But you'll either highlight that and click share at the bottom, or you can double click it, and that will open it in the share window. But you're not done yet. First of all, you have to make sure that you're unmuted. And I'm looking to make sure that I haven't been boring you all so far. Yes, I am unmuted. When you open your presentation, there are sometimes going to be some Zoom windows that may be in the way, and it really depends on how you've had your Zoom program oriented. And I'll show you what I mean. If you're new at this, it doesn't hurt to do a test run with a friend or a spouse. If they have another computer, a laptop or something, just say, can I take a couple of minutes and I'll start a Zoom program and you log on to it, and then I'll open up my share window and we'll see how it goes. And then your friend or your spouse can tell you whether it worked or not. And it doesn't hurt to go through your program so they can maybe critique it a little bit. You also want to be aware of your internet speed. I've seen a number of presentations or clinics that have been hampered because they kept freezing, or the image would get small because they had very low bandwidth. You can check your internet speed at speedtest.net, and you want to make sure that you have a good enough speed that your sharing isn't going to be interrupted. Now, once you've opened your share program, it can have a few things that are in the way, such as this pylon on the right that has some of the windows. This can be closed if you click this little line right here. It'll collapse this and you can move it out of the way. This Zoom control panel is going to be in your way, so you have to work around that. Something else to be aware of, if you're putting together a slideshow, I try not to put anything important over here on the right-hand side because many people will be watching it and they'll still have their pylon open. And I've seen that sometimes covering stuff that may have been important. So I try not to put anything really important over there. Now, in order to go full screen with your slideshow, if you're working in PowerPoint, there's two ways to do it. The first one is you can click slideshow and from the beginning up here at the top, and that takes this slide, which is going to be your first slide, and it opens it up full screen. The other way is to click this little screen button down here. People at PowerPoint decided to give you two options at how to do it. I'm sure they got their reasons. But I usually just click this little one down at the bottom. Now, let's say you've run through your presentation, your clinic. Everybody has gone, wow, they're all applauding you. Now, sharing information, presenting a clinic, it doesn't just help the community, it'll help you as well, especially if you want to progress through the AP program. This can help you work towards your author's certificate, which includes live clinics, online presentations, and other multimedia, or your volunteer certificate. You can earn points through clinics or educational contributions in an NMRA setting. You want to make sure you document all your work if you're doing that. For achievement program points, if you're working towards your author, your presentations can count under Section B, which is live clinics, and that can be if you're presenting to an audience or an online audience, or Section C, multimedia, which can be recorded clinics and Zoom presentations. And kind of stay on top of it. The NMRA is challenged by trying to keep their AP program in line with the technology, which is always running ahead of them. And they're always struggling to keep up to make sure that something that should be qualifying is actually stated in their guidelines. And you can go to the NMRA Achievement Program Facebook group to ask questions about something you may be doing or to see what their latest guidelines are. Whether you're new in the hobby or you're an old hand, you probably have something that you could talk about. Some people like to share information. Some people like to show other people how they learn something. Other people may not want to. They prefer to just sit back and listen, and that's fine. But there is a certain amount of enjoyment with sharing something that you've learned, some knowledge that you picked up, whether you learned it from somebody else or you just stumbled upon it on your own. It's easy to get started. One of the easiest ways is to just have a couple photos sent in to MyBuild, and then when the pictures are being shown, you can talk about that. That gets you over the first hurdle of talking to an audience if that intimidates you. And then you can take pictures of something you built and say, well, yeah, I'd like to share this with my club or with my NMRA division or something. And you may be asked to do it either in person or in an online presentation. And you'll get a lot out of that. It makes you feel like you've been helpful and you've helped inspire others. And as I always say, I look forward to hearing to what you have to say. So get building and get presenting, and I'll see you here hopefully someday. And thank you. And Tom, I'll give it back to you now.
Thank you, Greg. Are there any questions for Greg on anything at all? There's a
very well done, Greg.
Pat here. Yeah, I've got a question for you, Greg.
Yes.
How do you get over that antsy feeling of getting in front of a crowd of people and making a presentation?
I got over that in the Boy Scouts when I had to do public speaking, but I can't say how you can get over it. You can try talking to a few people at a club. Um, I think it's going to have to be each individual's personality as to how, if they find that intimidating, how they get over it. It is easier in an online to me, it's easier in an online format such as this than standing in front of a live audience and giving the presentation. That thing about imagining them in their underwear does not work when they're a bunch of old model railroaders.
That's a terrible thought.
Just a comment, one comment, Greg,
Yeah, go ahead,
on
Phil.
that. I think thing that's really important is start with something you're really familiar with. That way you're going to feel more comfortable. Don't start with something complex. Take that technique you've done, that model you've done, and I think that makes it a lot easier to get started and go through it. And like you said, start with a small group. Do it for if you're in a division and you go to a divisional meeting to do a clinic, it's unlikely there are going to be more than 10 or 15 people there. A lot of times, I did a clinic for a divisional meeting over the weekend, and we had 8 people in the room. And it's really easy in that kind of environment to get used to it. Go through it and do it a few times on your own. Before I drop off, I wanted to, for everyone, this is something I've been kind of pushing in our region to get more and more clinics. This is your best friend right here. If you're going to do clinics, this is your best friend, because the reality is, if you're going to take one picture, take 3 and move it around a little bit, because you can pick the one you like that's the best. But there's something else in here that's a really cool feature. There's a timer in here, because what I find when I model is I get absorbed in the modeling and I forget to stop occasionally and take a picture. Putting a presentation together about a build is really easy if you go back and when you unload the pictures out of your phone, and with the new phones, you just plug in your USB-C into the bottom of your phone connected to your computer. It'll show up on your computer as a drive, and you can upload the pictures right off your phone. When you've got all those pictures in a folder, put them in a folder, store them up while you're building the model. If you've got 4 projects and it takes you 2 months, put all those pictures in a folder and then go back and look at them and say, they're going to be sequential. How do I tell the story of my build? So the thing that's in here is you set that timer to 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever you want. And when it goes off, it reminds you it's time to start taking some pictures. And I think if you do that, you'll find that this becomes a really easy process. You're just documenting what you're doing. And what's amazing is you look at the amazing models that we have here on MyBuild. The reality is every one of those, if you take a set of pictures as you build it, you could give a presentation, a talk on how you built it. It's just not that complicated to do. And once you've done it a few times, it becomes really a lot easier to do in front of a group of people. Anyway, enough said. Thanks.
And Phil, you're right. I'll tell you, one of the reasons that I started taking photographs as I was building, and unfortunately it wasn't until I had already built a number of kits that I started doing this. And obviously it wasn't until I had a phone and it was really easy to do it, was I would find myself struggling to do something that I had done before. And I'd say, okay, 2 years ago, I managed to get this wood to get this kind of effect, this color, either using paint or a stain or something. How did I do that? And I didn't remember. So I started taking pictures every time I'd do a certain step that I wanted to remember. And after I stained something and then painted it a certain color, I'd take a picture showing the stain and the paint that I used. And then after I put something together, I'd take a picture showing how I put it together. And that kept building upon itself originally, so I could go back and look, how did I do that, so I could replicate it, because I really got a bad memory. But that started playing into developing these folders of pictures of everything that I've built. That led to putting them together into videos on a YouTube channel, which led to the development of a YouTube channel. They've got 250 videos on. By the way, if anybody wants to see any of those, it's Greg Cassidy's workshop on YouTube. But you're right. Before we had these things, a lot of life was very different. I remember back in the 80s and 90s, most presentations in clinics were done with slideshows. And you had to have a, 35 millimeter camera, most likely taking pictures of trains or something, and the slideshow would be talking about the trains. And you had the pictures that you had because you weren't taking 3 or 4 pictures of everything because you had to pay to have those processed. So what we can do nowadays with our electronics, with taking pictures with our phones, with putting them on computers, and with putting them together into a slideshow using something like PowerPoint, just makes doing a presentation so easy, whether it's to a live audience or to an online audience. So I recommend anybody, if they want to, give it a try.
Greg, if you don't mind, this is Father Ron. I'd like to answer Steve's concern about how do you get used to it. I'm a professional in the sense that I do this every weekend. You don't get used to it. And especially if you're with people you've never known before. Some of the parishes I go to on the weekend, I don't know any of the people there. If they could see my knees knocking, it might be more pleasant for them or humorous for them. One of the things to keep in mind is that you're in a friendly audience. You guys are presenting to fellow modelers who are interested in what you have to say. So don't be afraid to do this because they want to hear from you. And it doesn't matter what your dialect is, how you pronounce words. They want to hear because they're interested. So you've got a friendly audience all the time when you're doing these presentations. And they're tolerant of mistakes. That's the other thing to remember. They have probably had some of the experiences you have had. And so doing so is not something to be afraid of. You're going to make a mistake. In fact, my speech teacher in high school and college said, unless you're willing to act like a fool, you most probably will be one. And so you have to be willing to make mistakes and to look foolish. And you'll be very accepted in spite of that.
Yep.
You took the words out of my mouth, Father, because that was exactly what I was afraid of when I did my presentation. It wasn't necessarily, my new tracks members that I was afraid of. It was potentially all the people on YouTube, but definitely not. You're absolutely correct. Everything you said.
I have a follow-up with Greg's presentation. When you're putting together a multi-segment program, as you might, for example, in connection with a NMRA division meet or something else, it is good to mix up your media. So not everything is a slideshow, not everything is live, not everything is trying to look at a table with itty-bitty pieces on it, but mix it up. And I'm going to put in a plug for O-Scale Central's upcoming monthly program, which is on the 22nd, Sunday afternoon at 4 p.m. We're going to have the guy who heads Sunset Third Rail, Scott Mann, on, who'll be talking in an interview format about tariffs and what's happening there, in addition to telling us what's going on with Sunset Third Rail. We're then going to have a video of Ed Rapay's Pennsylvania Railroad layout, which will be narrated by Al Puglisi. And then we've got a couple of other features, and each one is different. And I find that if there isn't a PowerPoint deck in civilization that is worth 4 hours of sitting in a chair and watching it. So if you can liven it up, and use different media, you'll get a nicer flow and break up people's visuals on it.
Mm-hmm. It's all about keeping them awake and keeping their attention.
June 22nd, 4 p.m. Look on our website, oscalecentral.com, for the invitation. Everybody can go. Everybody can participate. You don't have to be an O-Scale Central member.
I'll be there.
Greg, for me, this is fantastic because this is where I lack. I've never made a presentation online and that. So I'm going to be going back. I know this is taped and I'll be going back and looking at it over and over.
Okay.
And a shout out to Tom Farrell a week or so ago. He was talking what he was making an old period sign using AI. Well, after the show, I was up at 1 o'clock in the morning producing artwork for my logos for my layout. And this is just a rough one on the front of an envelope. It's got the art, the correct stuff inside. And I made several. This is going to be going on my door going into my train room.
Oh, nice job, Larry.
Then I asked to make it horizontal. And as Tom pointed out, you make a little change, they turn it. I was expecting to see the image change, but no, it gave me another image, but it was about 96% what I had in my head. I was going to try to hand paint that, and that saved me a lot of time. Thank you. Thank you.
There is a way to get it to modify that specific picture if you want a slight change. One of our viewers pointed out that, I was showing that every time I did one of these, it came out different. There is a way to make it change that specific picture. I'll do a follow-up. I can't remember how he did it.
Yeah, but Tom, that's only if your AI isn't mad at you because you can knowing that it.
Oh, I use 2 versions of it, and I put in the same parameters. But anyway, when I changed the to a horizontal, there's what it produced. And
they just start over from scratch. That's
what I had in my head. I had that in my head 6 years ago, and I was going to try to hand paint it on the face of my layout when you enter it.
That's gorgeous. That's stunning. Yeah, look at that, huh? And we use AI on NewTrax. Greg gave me a article, and I asked AI to turn it into a PowerPoint. And then I had, of course, I have a lot of programs that go on top of that. I have grammar checkers and all kinds of programs that pile on, but half of them are AI based. But by the time you see stuff in the new magazine, for example, it's gone through 3 or 4 different AI engines. And as you'll see, the magazine is of the same quality as the 4 big magazines, and they have staffs of 10 to 20, and I'm a staff of 1, me and my AI. And it's a very powerful tool, and I think you're going to see it more and more, Larry and Greg. It's just amazing if it doesn't kill us in the end. Or useless carbon units, as Star Trek used to say. Well, we were going to have a discussion. We had somewhat of an open discussion this evening anyway. We were going to have one formally on improving new tracks, but we've kind of run out of time, which is good. I didn't want to interrupt any of the presentations tonight because they were so wonderful. And I do want a couple call outs to everybody. Steve Biddinger and Steve Sherrill. I mean, that is the A team. Those guys are wonderful. And our guest, David Vaughn, another great presentation, great comments in the end, and doing mixed media. And then just now, this Greg Cassidy, we got a big response out of this, and appreciate Father Ron, always words of wisdom. I really do appreciate you on the show, Father Ron. Bring a whole new dimension to things. So I think we're going to do our full open discussion next time. We'll pick some topics. One of our viewers on Zoom, Bud, suggested a topic, what's on your workbench? He said that was a door opener in the old NewTrax modeling to get people that hadn't otherwise spoken on the show as a way to contribute and not feel intimidated. So there's looks like 29 of you on Zoom right now. and hundreds on YouTube. The people on YouTube, come on over to the Zoom show. And next week we'll do, the theme will be what's on your workbench for our open discussion. And so I want to conclude with, I want to show you the cover of our July upcoming. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
That is Sean Williams' Wandering Spruce Railroad. I believe those are Ian Flanders' picture or characters. That's going to be the cover. Interesting about this new issue coming up, our second issue, is we already have about 7 articles, and 5 of the 7 are all new people that have not ever written an article before, people that haven't been on New Tracks. Fundamental to the sustainability of the hobby and to New Tracks and our 5 platforms is to bring new people into the program. Although we have wonderful people that do great presentations, and we'll continue to have the people that have made us what we are today, we constantly are on the lookout for new talent for obvious reasons. So what I'd like to do next is, Phil, why don't we just jump to the, let's have the closing with Father Ron, and then we'll go to our caboose.
O God, as we create in miniature the world around us, may we marvel at the beauty and genius which created the world and instilled in us a portion of your great knowledge and wisdom. Give success to the work of our hands, O God. Amen.
Thank you, Father Ron, and thank you for your wisdom. Next,
Welcome.
we'd like to have the caboose, which is a really neat one, and it needs no introduction. Where do you see this?
Minnesota State Fair today to see the thrill of thrills. 2 speeding locomotives in a spectacular head-on crash. And here's one of them, the NRA Special, on her way. The other engine, named Old Man Depression, is starting too. Man, oh man, this is going to be the battle of the century, all right. The engineers put on full steam and jump to safety. Faster and faster the drivers roll. Here she comes, right at us. Watch them come together. There it is. Look out. Wow, some smash. I'm glad it's all in fun.
The amazing Phil. Oh, thank you everyone who participated, the presenters and all the Zoomers. And thank our staff, producer Phil, executive producer, and Earl, who works behind the scenes breaking out the segments onto YouTube. Everybody's work is appreciated. It's all volunteer basis. Have a good evening. We'll see you next Wednesday.